Hey there, estate planning attorney Paul Rabalais here, and in this video we're going to talk about whether all of your assets and the values and account balances are disclosed to the public in that in that formal probate proceeding which occurs when you pass away with assets in your name. All right, so the background on that is occasionally I'm asked, either as part of a kind of a planning process of getting someone's legal affairs in order, or I'm asked as part of a settling an estate, Paul, what of my information or what of my parent or my spouse's information is going to be public for anyone to see? And quite frankly, a husband, for example, might tell me, Paul, we've been fortunate and we're real private with our financial information. No one knows, not even our children really know what we have. And my objective, the husband might say, is when I pass away, if my wife survives me, I really don't want a listing of everything that we have, all of our bank accounts, all of our savings accounts, our CDs, our brokerage accounts, all of the real estate and all of its values, and all of the account balances on all of those financial accounts. I don't want that in the public record. I don't want people knowing how much money my wife has. Or maybe a parent might say, you know what, Paul, if I pass away, I've got 3 children, they're each going to inherit X. You plug in the value, maybe $1 million, $2 million, $100,000. I don't want the public, knowing what my assets were at the time of my death and knowing what my children are inheriting. Is there anything we can do to avoid that? All right, so I will tell you, I'm a Louisiana estate planning attorney. The rules will vary from state to state. I'm going to focus on the Louisiana rules. If you really want to know about your state, you may have to inquire into somebody like me in your state. So here's the deal. In Louisiana, here's the question: when you die, if there's going to be a probate proceeding that's going to control the administration and ultimately the transfer of your assets, are those assets and all of those account balances and values of assets going to be disclosed to the public? So up until a couple of years ago, everything was always disclosed, because in a probate proceeding, in every single one, before anything could be transferred to the heirs, there was something called a detailed, and still is, something called a detailed descriptive list that was prepared and filed into the probate, or what we call in Louisiana the succession record. So that detailed descriptive list, or sometimes called a detailed descriptive list of assets and liabilities, or sworn detailed descriptive list of assets, it's got a few different names. But that list of assets then and now discloses everything that the person owned when he died. And if he was married, it's going to disclose all of the community property that the deceased and their spouse owned. So for bank accounts, it would list all of the bank accounts and the account balances as of the date of death. For investments, it would list all of the investments and the brokerage accounts as of the date of death and the value of those, or the account balances or the values of those investments that are in those brokerage accounts. If a person owned real estate, it would list the legal description of all of those interests in real estate, along with the fair market value of all of those different properties. If they owned a business, the business would be described as an asset in the detailed descriptive list, and the value of that business would be listed in that inventory or in that detailed descriptive list. And that detailed descriptive list would be filed into the record for really anyone to see, either during or after that probate or succession was complete. It was a public record. It applied in every probate. Then, kind of surprisingly, and I think it was 2017, the legislature passed a new law that says, well, wait a second, let's let some people get through this probate stuff and allow the family to remain somewhat private about the value of the assets that they own. So some new laws were passed that says this detailed descriptive list shall be sealed upon the request of an independent administrator, an heir, or a legatee. So many successions have what's called an independent administrator. Virtually all successions have either an heir, which is the case when there was no will, those intestate heirs would inherit, or a legatee, who's a person who inherits under a will. So any one of that independent administrator, heir, or legatee can request that that detailed descriptive list be sealed so the public can't see it. Again, the detailed descriptive list lists all of the assets and the values and account balances, but the final judgment of possession that lists who each asset goes to, the assets get listed on that judgment, but not the values. So for example, on a judgment, which is public, it might say account number such and such at bank is to be divided between these two children, but it doesn't list the value, so the public doesn't know. Now, furthermore, well, a couple of little points worth mentioning. If that detailed descriptive list is sealed, it does say a copy shall, or must, it's shall, means must, shall be provided to the decedent's, what's called universal successors and surviving spouse. Universal successors, an example of that is, I leave my estate to my 3 children equally. Those 3 children are the universal successors. And if I have a surviving spouse, the detailed descriptive list, even if it's sealed, it must be provided to my surviving spouse. Now, and then one final point in this whole new law, it says, upon the motion of any successor, surviving spouse, or creditor of the estate, the court may furnish relevant information contained in the detailed descriptive list regarding assets and liabilities of the estate. So if you died and you owe somebody a bunch of money, they're not an heir, they're not a legatee, they're not an administrator, but they're a creditor of the estate. So it says really a judge may, I guess at their discretion, may furnish relevant information to that creditor that's in the detailed descriptive list. Okay, so as a matter of practice, when we handle a probate or a succession in our office, it's kind of the default. We're always going to, on behalf of the heirs or legatees or the independent administrator, we're going to request that the detailed descriptive list be sealed, because nobody's ever told me, Paul, my husband died, my wife died, my parent died. I really want all of the world to be able to know exactly what they owned and how much money was in their bank account. Nobody's ever told me that. So if they wanted it to be public, we wouldn't request that it be sealed. But as a matter of fact, now that our law authorizes it, really in every probate, we always request that the detailed descriptive list be sealed. Now, if you want to learn more about not only how to keep assets that are going through an estate, going through a probate, how to keep all of that private, or really maybe even how to keep assets out of that probate proceeding. There's other videos, and you'll probably watch and hear, maybe even watch some of my videos that talk about some privacy component to establishing a living trust that's beyond the scope of this video. This video was really about what's public in a probate proceeding, but you'll need to talk to somebody like me in your state to find out what you can do to keep all of these financial matters private. As we all know, most people during their lifetime, most people are very private about how much money they have. You don't see people shouting from their rooftops, "Hey neighborhood, I have $262,000 in my checking account." Never seen anybody do that. Most people are private. Some people want to extend that privacy as they leave what they have to their family. They'd like that to be a private matter as well. So nonetheless, make sure you obliterate the like button. That tells YouTube, show my videos to more people. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you don't miss anything. Look forward to next videos. Hope you're enjoying watching these as much as I'm making them. We'll see you next time.